In today's video, we're going to take a look at patch 14.13 so far and see how all of the changes have affected our tier list. There were plenty more buffs, nerfs and changes, so let's get straight into it and see who the biggest winners and the biggest losers were so far. Starting off with the top lane, and in the S tier we have Aatrox, Camille, Darius, Fiora, Jax, Kayle, Kled, Sett, Vladimir and Zac. Zac continues his strong form in the top lane despite his nerfs. Vladimir makes a pretty juicy return to the meta with some very impressive numbers so far. Kennen and Gragas take a small hit, moving them down from S to A this week, and Skarner's nerfs finally hit this guy hard enough to actually make a difference. And what a difference they have made, because he's fallen down significantly in the top lane, the jungle and the support too. For our low elo pick of the patch this week, we've gone for Sett. He's been performing really well for quite a few patches now, and he's just a lot of fun to play. You do have to be careful of a few range matchups like Quinn or Kennen, but when you get a good one, you can easily get that early lead and start snowballing seriously quickly. Plus, there's nothing quite like a W flash in a team fight to one-shot those entire teams in just a few clicks. In high elo though, you just cannot go wrong with Camille. She's still insanely strong, and if you are good enough to play her, there's always a way you can stomp lanes, outplay your enemies against all of the odds, and carry 1v9. Our top laner to watch out for this patch is Kled. Now, you may not see this champion as often as some of the others in the S tier, but when you do come across a good one, you'll realise just how strong he can actually be. So if you haven't played Kled before, then get practicing, because when you get the hang of him, he can genuinely feel like freeload. Let's get into the jungle next then, and in the S tier we have a ton of choice with Bel'Veth, Fiddle, Kha'Zix, Kindred, Lilia, Nidalee, Shaco, Viego, Volibear, Xin Zhao and Zac. Fan favourites Lee Sin and Graves both got buffed this week, and they're still sitting in the A tier for now, but if you can play them well enough, they're definitely champions you can solo carry with. Karthus and Taliyah moved down from S to A with their nerfs this week, and Skarner moves all the way down to the B tier. Just like the top lane, Zac keeps his spot in the S tier though, despite his nerfs. Our low elo pick of the patch in the jungle goes to Xin Zhao, who is incredibly easy to pick up and learn, but also very easy to impact games with as well. If he does get fed early game, he brings a huge amount of damage, making him a beast of a skirmisher. So if you pair that with an aggressive playstyle, the solo queue Summoner's Rift will become your playground. If you want to see Xin Zhao's best builds, then make sure you click the link in the description and head to our website, where you can find his and all other champions' best builds and rune setups in just a few clicks. Our high elo jungle pick this week is Kindred, and she's definitely a bit unique compared to most other junglers due to that passive minigame collecting marks and scaling into an absolute nightmare. But if you can invade and keep tempo and keep on the ball with Kindred, you will carry harder than most other junglers in the game. Plus, you'll seriously tilt the enemy jungler at the same time, so what's not to like? A one to watch out for this patch just has to be Fiddlesticks, who's been pretty underrated for most of this season, but now he's getting picked more often, and understandably so, because if you know how to play him, he is insanely strong. Those late game ultimates can carry any game in the right moments, so all you gotta really do is learn his early game and those jungle clears before you get started, and then put it to practice to farm some serious LP. Moving into the mid lane now then, and again in the S tier we have a ton of options, with Ahri, Akshan, Anivia, Aurelion Sol, Cassiopeia, Galio, LeBlanc, Lux, Sylas, Tristana and Zoe. Brand does move out of the S tier and into the A tier with his nerfs, Orianna moves up from B to A with her buffs, and Lissandra stays in the B tier despite getting some buffs as well. Our low elo pick in the mid lane this week just has to be Galio, who's winning an absolutely absurd amount of games across the board. He gets really tanky super quickly, has tons of fantastic gank setup with all of his CC, and can roam and influence other lanes really easily with his ultimate too. Our high elo pick this patch goes to Zoe, who's shot straight back up there into those top tiers this patch, as players are finally realising just how good she actually is. The Luden's mid lane meta is pretty present at the moment, and with just this item, Zoe can start one-shotting rotating enemies super quickly. And before you know it, she's got that fully stacked up Soul Stealer and forcing enemies FF votes left, right and centre. Our pick to watch out for in the mid lane this week is Cassiopeia, who, although you may not see quite as often, is actually boasting one of the highest win rates in the game. Cass can take down all sorts of enemies, whether it's bursting through squishies, tearing through tanks, or lining up those huge flash ultimate combos to carry major teamfights. So if you haven't played Cassiopeia recently, make sure you give her a try. Let's get into the bot lane next then and start off with those AD carries. And in the S tier we have Ashe, Jinx, Kai'Sa, Kog'Maw and Zeri. Miss Fortune moves up from B to A this week with her buffs making a decent bit of a difference. Varus' changes haven't really settled in just yet though, and his win rate has actually fallen down so far with players not quite adjusting to the attack speed builds instead. Kai'Sa and Jinx continue to be the two most contested and most played champions you can go for, and it's pretty easy to understand why, because they are definitely some of the strongest AD carries on the menu. Our low elo pick in the bot lane this week is Kog'Maw, who has shot up to the S tier this patch after proving in recent weeks he's not one to be underestimated. And with his favourite support Lulu also being super strong, this bot lane pairing is one you can climb insanely quickly with. Kog can genuinely melt through entire enemy teams in a matter of seconds once he's got those core items online, so give him a go. Our high elo AD carry pick this week is Zeri, who's still winning an absolutely ridiculous amount of games at higher ranks at the moment. And she's just so hard to beat if she can make it out the lane phase without being too far behind. Zeri's power spikes in the mid to late game are crazy, and if you don't have the reliable CC to take her out and she knows how to play Zeri perfectly, your chances of beating her will be significantly low. Finally, just a quick note for our one to watch out for here, which is of course Draven, who in the right hands is still and will always be one of the scariest AD carries in the game to come up against. Now, the average Draven player might not be that terrifying, but if you do go against a good one, you'll be banning it for the next 20 games in a row. Finally, let's have a look at support then. And in the S tier, we have Alistar, Janna, Leona, Lulu, Nami, Poppy, Pyke, Rell, Sona, and Thresh. There's still a massive amount of great choices to main hit, with enchanters like Nami and Lulu popping off, and a huge range of engaging supports to choose from, like Alistar, Leona, Rell, Thresh, and even Poppy too. Sona also jumps up to the S tier this week, so make sure you don't forget about her either, because in terms of consistency and scaling, she's a dream pick into pretty much any team comp. Our low elo support pick to play this patch is Leona, and if you have been playing League recently, I probably won't have to elaborate on this one too much. She gets really tanky really quickly, and her CC and gank setup is just some of the best in the game. So if you pair her up with a bursty AD carry who can capitalize on all that crowd control, then you can start stomping lanes so hard that you end up just diving your enemies on repeat. A high elo pick of the patch this week just has to be Pyke, who's been in the S tier for pretty much the entirety of Split 2 so far. He might not be as straightforward as some of the other S tier options here, but if you are a one trick or if you just know how and when to pick and play Pyke, you can definitely carry super hard from this role. Finally, our support to watch out for this patch is Braum, and what a fantastic ranked split he's having so far. He's a perfect partner to so many different meta AD carries. You've got the obvious S tier choices, but he also makes picks like Ezreal, Lucian, and Caitlyn even stronger too, with relentless stuns, amazing peel, and plenty of ways to carry games in all sorts of lanes and drafts. And that brings us to the end of our patch 14.13 updated tier list video. Thank you guys as always for watching, and we'll see you next time. Take care.